I was 8 years old, and it was Christmas Day, and we were at my grandparents' house. Me, and my grandparents, and my mom, and my little sister. My older sister and my dad had stayed back in Savannah because they both had to work. And there I am, just doing what 8-year-olds do. It's Christmas Day. We had finished opening all our presents. We were just playing with our toys, just hanging out like we always do. It was pretty typical for us to be at our grandparents' house on the weekends. We spent most of our weekends there, just to get away from my dad because of all the drinking and just him being angry all the time. And then the phone rings, and my mom gets on, and she's frantic because it's my older sister calling to tell her that Dad had gotten really drunk and had hit her and tried to hang himself in the ceiling fan, so she had called the cops. So that was Christmas, 8 years old. The last time that I ever talked to my dad, I was 13. We'd been living in Charlotte for about a year or so, and he was still back in Savannah after we made the move. My older sister, who had already quit talking to my dad a couple years before that, had just gotten married, and he found out through some friends. So he called us up, and he was drunk and really mad. My little sister was the first to talk to him on the phone, and she gets off the phone just bawling, crying. So I get on the phone, and I'm playing the tough guy, and like, Dad, why are you making Ashley cry? Like, what did you say? And he wouldn't tell me, and he's yelling at me too, and then I could tell he was just drunk. And we're just going back and forth. I'm like, Dad, what's the deal? And he goes, how could you not tell me that my daughter got married? And then finally, I just said, you know what, Dad, go to hell. And I hung the phone up. And that was it. After that day, I told my dad to go to hell and hung up on him. We didn't talk. Now, all of a sudden, here I am. I feel like I'm this tough guy, and something changes in me, and I try to be the best, the strongest. I get really cocky, really confident, overly confident. Like, I don't have a dad around, and my mom was working so much just to pay the bills that I really could do anything I wanted to and just pretty much get away with it. So I get really heavy into that whole scene where I feel like I'm a gangster, and I'm selling drugs, I'm doing drugs, and just going off the deep end. And finally, I hit rock bottom at that point, where I overdosed one night and prayed that God would save me, and I survived. So He did. Then started going back to church. Got baptized not long after the night that I overdosed. Then I'm 24, and this is 11 years after I told my dad to go to hell, and I had still never talked to him again after that day. And I'm driving home from work, and I get a call from my mom, and you could tell she sounded upset, and she said to me, I don't know how to say this, but your dad's dead. And here I am, I'm in 5 o'clock traffic on my way home, and the reaction hit me really weird because I started tearing up, and this was a guy that I hated, that I was the one that wanted to kill him. I mean, that's how I felt most of the time. Like, I wanted to hunt him down just for the things he had done to us. So I start tearing up, and I'm trying to figure out, like, where's this coming from, because this is someone I hate, and now I'm sad. So we're talking, and I'm asking what happened and how did it happen, and she says that she doesn't know everything yet, but he was in California, he was in a hotel room, and he killed himself. And it was a couple of days before anybody found him. It was literally the smell coming out of the hotel room and the fact that he hadn't paid through the whole week, that's the only reason they found him. So then all of a sudden I'm dealing with this, a lot of guilt from the fact that the last time we talked I told him to go to hell. I had never forgiven him for all the stuff he had done to us all those years. And then like now all of a sudden it's just done. The door was closed, and I could never make amends, because somewhere in the back of my mind, I guess maybe we would reconcile, or I mean, I really didn't know. I hadn't thought that far ahead. And then all of a sudden, he's just gone. So it's completely over with after that. No one really knows how much I'm struggling with it. But then one day, my grandpa asked me to do prison ministry with him for the weekend. So I say yes, and we go in, and it's this 3-day thing inside the prison. It's a program they do, and they're preaching forgiveness the whole time, and not just forgiveness for these guys who are in prison, but for them to forgive themselves for what they've done to end up in there. And then during the climax of the whole ceremony, where they're really saying, you know, it's time to let go and forgive yourself, I'm standing off in the back, kind of by myself, and my grandpa comes over and, you know, kind of gives me this look and says to me, you know, it's time for you to forgive yourself too. You're not the one that killed your dad. He killed himself. It's time to move on because it's over and there's nothing you can do. And sooner or later, you have to forgive yourself. You don't just forgive and forget. It's still really messy. There's still a lot of hurt that's there, but at least you can start moving on and putting all those broken pieces back together. It never looks the way it did before, but at least it's not shattered everywhere. And I could actually deal with the pain and the hurt instead of just pushing it down and hiding from it. I'm Justin Evans, and this is my Kinetic.